We're back, whole 9 yards Thursday night here. A lot of stuff has happened since the last episode, so we're just going to get straight into it. We'll start off with the Harden trade. I mean, if you haven't heard of it yet, the Nets acquired James Harden. If you haven't heard it, honestly, you're kind of living under a rock. But we'll go, Brandon, first reactions on Harden getting sent from the Rockets.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if I were to give it a grade, like, do we want to do gradings of the trade?
Yeah, we could. Yeah, we can do gradings. Yeah.
All right. So I'll go with the Nets perspective. I'd say it's a B. I'd say it's an A right now, but I'd say it's probably like a C, C plus, in the future, obviously, because as we get into the trade, I mean, he was traded, the Nets gave up in this trade. They gave up their starting center, Jared Allen, who I think arguably he's one of the better centers in the league. If you actually just look at his stats and what he does, kind of his advanced stats, they give up, a Torian Prince, who's a pretty decent bench scorer. He's kind of like he's probably your 7-8 man. They gave up Karis LeVert, who I think is actually pretty good. I actually really like Karis LeVert. He went to the Rockets. Allen and Prince went to Cleveland. That's just another part of the trade. But the Nets also gave up 3 first-round picks, 2022, 24, and 26, and then 4 first-round pick swaps in 21, 23, 25, and 27, all to Houston. So the player they get, James Harden, I mean, I'd say that's obviously an A addition to your team. Even with the subtraction of Allen, Prince, and LeVert, I'd still rather have James Harden than those three. Um, at least in my mind, I would. But for going in the future, I mean, like it's basically all three of those guys are under contract, basically for the next 2 seasons. I guess 2.5, counting this one. So I mean, if you don't really win a championship in these next 2 seasons, and you'd have to hope that they'd resign. But I mean, what are the odds of all three of them resigning, if even any of them resign? So they really have to win a championship these next 2-3 years. And if they don't, then it's a waste, I'd say. So I'd give it a B because of right now, it's definitely the right move. But for the future, if you don't win a championship, then it's a terrible trade, I'd say. But if you win a championship, then it's all worth it.
So are we saying a B is average or is a C average?
I mean, in my mind, I'd say B is average,
Yeah.
at least
Okay.
in
I
my
mean, I
mind.
would I would give this trade for the Nets, and this is I would call it a bias grade, but I would give it like a C or a C minus. I'll say C for now, but it has the potential to go down even further because again, like you said, it relies on the Nets winning a championship in the next two
Yeah.
or 3 years, and if they don't do that, then this trade is an F, basically. Assuming none of them, or not none of them, but assuming at least one of them doesn't resign. Um, I don't think the Nets are going to win a championship in the next 2 to 3 years. Maybe they do. So that's why if you do think they will with Harden, if that's the difference maker, then you'd have this grade higher than I do. But I don't think it's going to make the difference for them winning the championship or not. So that's why I have it so low. I actually think the more interesting team to me is probably Houston. I mean, there's 4 teams in this trade, but
Yeah.
as far as Houston's return is concerned, I mean, I thought they got a lot considering. I mean, Harden's been rumored to be out since what? I mean, before the season even started at this point. So
Yeah.
you
Going
kind of
back to
knew
the
he was.
summer.
You knew he was going to be gone. Honestly, I mean, teams aren't going to be willing to trade much to anybody who's already, on the way out. But they got, I mean, Exum, who cares? They got Oladipo. They got 4 first-round picks, 4 pick swaps, and a second-round pick. I mean, you quickly went from a team that doesn't really have much in the future to a team that now has a lot in the future. I mean, obviously, you're not going to be winning a championship in the next probably 5 years at the very least, probably now. But that's just a harsh reality of the NBA. That's kind of how it works, unless you're like a big free agent market team. Uh, but I mean, I think you went from a team that was probably going to be, in the NBA purgatory of 5 seed and losing in the second round to now you have the ability to hit the reset button. Ideally, you probably would have gotten Ben Simmons and you would have sent Harden to the Sixers. But if that's not going to happen, and if you weren't able to get, I know Ainge said that the asking price was too high. They wanted Smart and Brown. if you were able to get like one of those packages, that'd be better. But if this is the best you can get, I mean, I would give the Rockets grade probably like a B plus or an A minus. I mean,
Yeah,
I,
I give the Rockets probably an A. I mean, kind of like what you were saying. I mean, another part was they traded Levert for Oladipo, and I think that's the right move. I mean, Oladipo is going to be a free agent after this season, so if he's good, they can re-sign him. If he's not, they could just let him walk, and they basically didn't really give up anything. And then John Wall is going to be off the books after next year, so they're gonna have a lot of money to spend. Look, they're not gonna be a playoff team. They're gonna be bad for this year and most likely next year. So they're hoping that they're being bad, they can get a top first round pick. And the swaps, I mean, probably for 2021, which is this year, in 2023, I'd say the swaps won't really matter that much because the Nets will be a lot better than the Rockets will be. But again, if those guys don't resign, then you have two more pick swaps and you also have two more first round picks. Yeah, you have 2024 and 2026. That's just their first round pick. So yeah, I mean, for the Rockets, I think this is a great trade. I heard that they wanted Simmons and Tyrese Maxey from the Sixers, but the Sixers didn't want to give up Maxey. They were willing to give up Matisse Thybulle. So I mean, if that's the reason why you're not trading for James Harden, then I'd say you just didn't want James Harden if you're worried about giving up Tyrese Maxey or Matisse Thybulle, because it didn't seem like they had to give up as many, definitely not as many picks if you're giving up Ben Simmons, because the player equals the amount of picks that the Nets had to give up because they didn't have a type of player like Simmons. So if that's really the reason, I would just say the Sixers didn't want Harden. Which I mean, could you
I don't
blame
blame. I
them? I
don't. No, I
mean,
don't at all. I
yeah, I
mean,
mean, like, would they win a championship with Harden and Embiid? I mean, probably not. I mean, are they going to win with Simmons and Embiid? Probably not too, but I think you'd rather have Simmons and Embiid than Harden and Embiid. So I think the Nets was the only option for Harden. And I mean, I kind of have a question. I mean, do you think Kyrie orchestrated this trade? Do you think this was Kyrie's trade?
um,
In that he said in that if you get Harden, I'll come back to the team. Because again, he hasn't said anything. We don't know when he's exactly coming back. But do you think he said, like, I'm gonna come back to the team, you get Harden, and then you'll have us three and I'll be focused for basketball? Do you think that happened?
no, I don't think so. I don't know what. I mean, I don't know what Kyrie's been doing. I mean, I don't think he's been like orchestrating a trade. I mean, I think that's somebody else in the front office doing that, or some
I mean,
other
he
people's.
definitely approved it though.
Well, sure. I mean, him and KD have to approve everything that goes on. Really. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think it's just Kyrie. If we're talking about orchestrating trades, like I would say, if you want to say Kyrie and KD, then sure. Like, did they talk to Harden about it? I mean, probably, but I mean, they're not the ones negotiating it. I guess.
Well,
Like
yeah.
I think if anything, they're probably saying, if anything, Kyrie and KD are like, go get Harden, but they're not like. I mean, they probably want to give up like as many first round picks as possible, and I don't. And the bad thing about having Kyrie and KD on a team is like, they kind of have you over a barrel. I mean, if they want you to go send 5 first round picks, Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, 4 first round picks, and a second round pick, and like 3 other pick swaps, like just to get James Harden, who's like an aging superstar that is ball dominant, just like Kyrie and KD in a way too. And I mean, if they want you to do it, you have to do it, because if you don't do it, they're just not going to resign, or they're not going to be happy. And if they're not happy, they're probably not winning championships. So it's a negative for the Nets to be in this scenario, at least in my opinion. This trade reminds me, in my mind, this trade is like a better Paul Pierce KG trade. Obviously, it's way better because they're just way better than
Yeah.
Pierce and KG were at the time, and Jason Terry. But I mean, again, you're selling your future for the short term, and if it doesn't work out and they don't re-sign, I mean, you're done for the next. Again, I mean, the Nets just spent so much time trying to get back into shape, and if this doesn't work out again, you're going to be done for the next. After 2 or 3 years, you're going to be done for another 5 or 6, probably again, before you can even consider, rebuilding really. So
Yeah, I mean, for the Nets side, I mean, you're definitely taking a risk. It's a better risk than it was for KG and Pierce because They were clearly past their prime, and
I mean,
really the only
that was one of the worst trades in NBA
yeah.
history.
I mean, the only reason they really did it was because they just moved to Brooklyn and they were trying to get relevance. I don't think they actually thought they could win a championship with that team. I mean, if they did, then they're crazy because that team had no chance of even coming close to the finals. But I think this trade they're actually making to win the championship. I mean, clearly you have KD and Kyrie, then you add Harden. So it's a completely different trade, but in a sense, it's the same, obviously, in that you're giving up a lot of your future. But I mean, looking at the Nets, I mean, their lineup now. I mean, again, you did lose a lot of depth. You lost. I mean, Dinwiddie's obviously out with injury. You did keep him, which I think is good for the next 2 years. That when he comes back next season, I think that'll be. I think next year they'll be a lot better than they will be this year. But I mean, you have this year you have Kyrie, Harden, KD, and then I guess you have Joe Harris at your three, DeAndre Jordan at your starting center. He's a backup center at best, so that's
I mean,
definitely not good.
he's been getting like
He
DNP
got a
coaches
healthy scratch
decisions.
last
Yeah, I
week,
mean,
so the only
I
reason
think
he's on the
losing.
team is because of KD and Kyrie. So,
Yeah, I mean,
and I mean, losing Allen, like I think that's I like Levert a lot, but he was obviously going to be someone who had to get traded in a James Harden trade. Losing Allen, that really hurts. I think he's one of the best rim protectors in the league. He's a great rebounder, and he's way better than DeAndre Jordan is. So I think that's going to hurt them. But like looking at their bench, I mean they have Bruce Brown, Jeff Green. Again, they lost Torian Prince, who was a pretty
well,
good.
this, I mean, it kind of go. I don't know. I feel like the Nets. I mean, from this trade, and from a winning in the short term perspective, if you want to argue that you make this trade 10 times out of 10, like I won't necessarily disagree with it. It's James Harden, but I mean, went from a team that you clearly saw had obviously a great starting five and a very solid bench, one of the best in the league, to now,
Yeah,
I mean, obviously still a star-studded starting five, but after that, I mean, your center's position and the rest of your bench is pretty bad. I mean, if Jeff Green is like your seventh best player, that's not good. Obviously
yeah.
Dinwiddie's out, so that's uncontrollable. But yeah, I mean, losing Levert, you're going to probably have to lose him regardless. In a James Harden trade or not, I just don't know that he was necessarily the best fit on the team. Not that he's not a great fit, but whatever. I mean, I don't know, but yeah, I mean, losing Allen is not good, and obviously DeAndre Jordan is just. I mean, he's been getting healthy scratches, so you're just gonna have to hope that you don't need a bench. I mean, you might just not if you have the three top three of the top 10 players in the league. You might just not need a bench, but we'll see how things go. I'm still not necessarily sold on this team winning at all. I mean, they're going to have to go through some pretty solid teams in the East, and obviously whoever comes out of the West as well. Uh, is Kyrie, KD, and Harden going to work on the court? It's going to take time for sure. I mean, I just don't know how Kyrie, Harden, and KD are all going to fit together. I mean, I don't know if you're more sold on it than I am, but
Well, I'm not really worried about KD because he doesn't really need the ball to affect a game. I'd say like he doesn't need to have the ball like every single possession, but like Harden and Kyrie, they definitely do. So that's gonna be tough. Unless I mean, I did read something that said they're all willing to give up. I mean, I think everyone says that whenever you add like a superstar to your team, but if they actually are willing to give up possessions and points, shot attempts, it definitely can work. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, one or two of those guys is going to be on the floor at all times of the game, which I don't think no other team in the league can say that they could have three when they're at their best, three top 20 players, maybe even top 15, with Kyrie being the last of the three. But no other team can say that. So for them to have that, and when it comes playoff time, maybe again, like these first 10 games, you can't really say anything because there's no way they're going to know how to play with each other for these first couple weeks. But when it comes to the playoffs, you'd hope that they'd be more consistent with each other and they'd have more chemistry. And at that point, I mean, I definitely wouldn't want to play them again if if their chemistry is up. If they still can't figure it out, then I mean, yeah, it's going to be hard for them to win, multiple rounds. But if they figure it out, even just like halfway, then yeah, they're going to be hard to get out.
yeah, I mean, for sure. I still would put, I mean, the reigning champions over them. That's the only team I'd be willing to say for sure I'd have above the Nets, though. Which I mean, I think that's progress. I think before this trade, there were probably teams that I would for sure have above the Nets. But again, I mean, with the potential is, I mean, through the roof. They could if they reach their ceiling, they're probably by far the best team in the league. So
The one thing that's going to hold them back is defense, though. They lost defense in the trade, and they added Harden, who doesn't give really anything defensively. So they could probably score 120 points a game if they wanted to, but they're probably going to give up 120 points a game also. So they can just figure it out defensively, and that Harden can somewhat try. I know like the stats last year say that he was better defensively, but he's and I know this year I can't really look at what he did this year because he was clearly just trying to get himself traded. Like if you were watching that last Laker game, I mean, like he's not switching on rotations, he's not boxing people out, he's not moving with people when they're dribbling the ball. Like he's just clearly wasn't trying. So I think now he'll try. I mean, he got what he wanted. So why would he not, act like James Harden of the last couple of years? So if they could just figure out defensively, get their chemistry up, find how to play with each other, then yeah, they're gonna probably be on that level of where the Lakers are if they could figure it all out.
yeah, and I guess quickly I'll just talk about Indiana. I mean, because I didn't necessarily talk about Levert going there, but I mean they traded Oladipo for Levert. They swapped second round picks with the Rockets. I think this is solid for Indiana. I mean, were you going to pay Oladipo? Most likely, certainly not. Clearly not. I mean,
Yeah.
and I think this is probably the best at this specific time you would have gotten for Oladipo. I mean, Levert's a young player with potential, and I mean, if looking around the league, I just don't know what else you would have necessarily gotten for Oladipo. I just don't think people wanted to trade for him. Now, I mean, you can Oladipo get traded from the Rockets? Like, or are the Rockets going
No,
to look
they'll stick on to him.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think from Indiana's perspective, though, I think it's a solid trade. I mean, it's really not anything significant, but I mean, this team's probably going to make the playoffs again. They're like, I mean, this Indiana team, we both slept on them. They're a slept on team in the league. I don't know that they're going to be like, significantly better than I thought they were. I mean, I think I had them at like my 7 seed. They have a potential to be slightly higher than that, so they might get the 5 seed or something like that. And again, they're going to be a team that can push the 4 seed, can push the 3 seed to 7 games. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah. I mean, like, I had them as my 8 seed. You said you had them in your 7 seed. We both thought Oladipo was going to get traded. He did. We both thought maybe Turner. I guess we'll still have to see with that. But I think the reason they traded Oladipo was because one, he just wanted to get traded, but he just didn't fit on that team anymore. He thought he was still the best player like he was when he got there, but clearly it's Sabonis and Brogdon who are the better players on that team. And he just kind of lost his way. But I mean, they're starting 5: Brogdon, Levert, Warren when he's healthy, which it seems like he's out for the season. Maybe he comes back at some point, but maybe for the playoffs, maybe at some point in the regular season. But that kind of hurts him being injured. But then you have Sabonis and Turner. And that's starting 5. You don't have like a superstar, but that's probably that's one of the best collective starting 5s in the NBA if you were just to look at each player.
yeah, I mean,
So
if in a world where Warren's healthy, there's absolutely
yeah, yeah,
there's no hole in that starting 5, really.
yeah. I mean, look, are they going to win a championship? No, but they can get to the second round. And like you said, like they're play the Sixers, that's probably a 7-game series. If they're playing Heat, that's probably a 7-game series. So yeah, even the
Yeah,
Celtics, that's probably even like a 6-7 game series.
yeah. I mean, I guess very quickly, like Cleveland got. I mean, they traded Exum a first and a second for Jared Allen, Torian Prince, and some other random player. I mean, what are your reactions from the Cavs getting Allen, if really anything at all?
Well, I think the only thing it says is that they're probably going to trade Andre Drummond. I mean, what else is the point of getting Jared Allen, who's cheaper, has similar skill set to Drummond? I mean, Drummond had a $30 million player option this year. He's going to be a free agent. There's no way they're going to pay him. He's taking like 17 shots a game this year, which they definitely would rather him not do. So if I would be surprised if Drummond doesn't get traded. I mean, they have 6 centers for some reason. I don't know why, but they do. So yeah, I the only thing I could take away is that they're gonna trade Andre Drummond.
If they can. I mean,
Yeah,
we'll see if they have any suitors. But yeah, Drummond and McGee are both free agents after this year. And by the way, I said they traded a first rounder. That was not their own first rounders. Just to make that clear, it was the
yeah,
Bucks
the
first rounder.
Bucks.
So I mean, I think for the Cavs, you don't really lose much, and you gain basically just, in my opinion, I would say Allen's probably better than Drummond right now. Debatable, but he's younger and he's cheaper.
Yeah.
So for me, he's objectively better than Drummond. But I mean, yeah, that's the Harden trade. I don't know if there's anything else NBA that you want to talk about, but
Um, Not really. I mean, it's kind of like the last time we talked. Not much else has changed. I mean, obviously the trade, but nothing else really. I mean, there's a lot more COVID stuff, so there's been a lot more postponements. Doesn't seem like they're going to pause the season. I wouldn't expect them to, but I guess for these next couple of weeks, it's probably going to be a lot of postponements and a lot of scheduling changes. But other than that, nothing else has really happened.
yeah. So you want to get into the games, or you want to?
Well, we did have a coach hired today. I mean, do we want to talk about that?
Yeah, we can talk about Urban Meyer quickly. So the Jags hired Urban Meyer. I mean, he's been one of the best college coaches in the past, whatever, how many years, like 15, 20 years. For me, I mean, I think giving Urban Meyer just like the key to the franchise is good. It's I we'll see how it pans out. But ultimately, I prefer, if I'm gonna hire Urban Meyer, I'd like to, just give him access to everything, like give him access to the team. I don't want it to be a coach where you have you only can coach the team and you can't really be the GM as well. I mean, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but for Urban Meyer, I kind of like to just let him do his thing. It seems that he's basically hired his own staff. He'll have access to do whatever he wants in the team. He's obviously going to get Trevor Lawrence. I'm not sure if Urban Meyer had access to choose whatever coaching job he wanted to. I'm curious if Urban Meyer thought the Jaguars job was the best job in general. I probably wouldn't agree with that. I would think the Chargers are the best job in the league right now, with the Jaguars probably being second. But overall, I mean, I think it's a good hire. You can't really put too much stock into it yet. I mean, you kind of just have to see what happens. Now, are they going to make the playoffs? I mean, probably not. The team's still not very talented. You have to do a bunch of rebuilding. But I expect Urban Meyer I expect him to kill it in the draft in the next few years. I mean, this is all the classes that he was recruiting for back when they were in high school. And obviously, he coached against many of these players. If not, they were on his team. So, I mean, we'll see. I think it's a good hire, though. So,
Yeah, I think it's a really good hire too. It would be interesting to see what his coaching staff is, who is his OC and who's his DC. I'd expect them to kind of be college guys, or at least guys who've worked in college. So it would be interesting to see who he actually chooses. But yeah, I mean, they're going to take Trevor Lawrence number one. They have, I don't know how much cap room it exactly is, but it's I think it's top 5 in the league. Now, I mean, will they actually spend it on like a big guy? I mean, possibly, but they have talent on their team. I mean, they have Josh Allen, the defensive end, obviously not the quarterback. Was really good. He just finished his second year. They have James Robinson, who is an undrafted rookie this year. Pretty sure he was a Pro Bowler. I mean, we'll set to see if that actually, withstands for these next couple years. But they have
I mean,
DJ Chark.
he's probably the best running back out of the draft. Better than Taylor, better than Hilaire.
I'd say Jonathan Taylor was better, but
I mean, I think Robinson's probably better, but I mean, whatever.
I mean, I guess he had a worse offensive line, but um, yeah, I mean, Robinson, they DJ Chark. Defensively, they still need help, but that's why you have this draft. I mean, obviously Lawrence is going to be your first pick, but you can improve on your offensive line a little bit. You can improve in your secondary. So I expect him to be probably like 4 or 5 wins, I'd say, this year, unless Lawrence is just absolutely amazing and he can carry them to maybe like 6 wins. But it's a tough division, and I just really don't see them getting up to 6. But I think over these next not I think like the second year you'll really see them. They'll probably be around 7-9, 8-8 if everything keeps improving and Lawrence is really the guy that you think he is. And I think that's just the culture that Urban Meyer brings. Like you saw at Ohio State. Again, it's Ohio State, so you could say what you want, but he clearly had a culture in there and it worked for the time that he was there. So yeah, I think it's a really good hire.
Yeah, I mean, he really has yet to necessarily fail at a place. I mean, completely fail,
Yeah.
that is. So, yeah. I mean, I guess we'll get into the divisional games now. I
Yeah.
guess we can start with the AFC, and we'll go Chiefs Browns.
Yeah. So, you want me to start?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
All right. So, Chiefs Browns. I mean, again, we both have the Steelers winning, so this would have been Ravens Chiefs in both of our brackets. But this definitely worked out better for Kansas City. You'd so much rather face Cleveland than Baltimore. I think most people would say that, even despite the way that Cleveland played. And then obviously they get Batonio back at guard, and they get Stefanski back at their play caller head coach. But I'd be so surprised if Cleveland went into Kansas City, played as perfect of a game as they did, and won. It's just a way different offense that they're playing. It's a way different environment. It also has fans, which I think actually does make somewhat of a difference. Especially coming from a place where there was no fans. I mean, I don't know. I think it's just good that the Browns won a playoff game, and I don't really think Browns fans care as much if they were to lose this game. And one, you're playing the Chiefs. You didn't even think you'd probably win your first game anyways, and you won a playoff game for the first time since like 1999 or whatever it was. So I just think the Chiefs are gonna show why they're the Chiefs, and they're gonna win this game.
Yeah, I mean the Browns this year it felt like they were a team they probably are a first round out. If they get a win, awesome. I mean, the win meant a lot to the franchise and its fans clearly. But I mean now you're facing arguably the best team in the league. They're the reigning champs. It feels like it's the end of the road for the Browns. So, I mean, I'm definitely gonna pick the Chiefs. As far as the Chiefs' perspective is concerned, I mean, yeah, like the fact that if you go to the Super Bowl, you'd have only faced either the Ravens and the Bills and not both. Is clearly huge. Those are clearly the two best teams other than Chiefs in the conference. So having them beat each other up before the conference championship is priceless for the Chiefs. Ravens, Bills. I guess I'll start. I mean, the Bills. I forget exactly what the spread was on Fox, but it's only like 2.5 or something like that. Um, I really don't know who I want to take in this game, to be honest. I mean, I'm gonna take the Ravens because I ultimately trust the franchise more, and that might just be like a bias type of thing. But um, the Bills, they haven't been in this position before. I don't know if they're ready to take the next step and beat the Ravens now. Is beating a wild card team, not a division winner, like taking the next step. I mean, I don't know, but I think the Ravens have been a super hot team. I think Lamar Jackson has played incredibly well as of recently. I think they built some chemistry, beating the Titans last week. I'm going to take the Ravens. I think it'll be a close game regardless. I think the Ravens probably win by a field goal or a touchdown or something like that. But I think it's a very competitive game. I think Allen plays well, but I think Allen misses some throws, and I think that might be the reason why the Ravens win.
I'm gonna go with the Bills. I mean, they were my Super Bowl picks, so I have to go with them. But it definitely hurts that they have to play the Ravens instead of the Steelers. I mean, they'd so much rather play the Steelers in this round and then face Kansas City or even Baltimore. I mean, that game would have been a toss up, and maybe not a toss up, but definitely a lot closer than Browns Chiefs would have been. So this game is going to be, like we said this last week, it's going to be the most entertaining game of the weekend by far. It's supposed to snow in Buffalo, which I think it's definitely going to have somewhat of an effect. I mean, it's the first, if it actually does snow, then, or at least there's snow on the ground, it'll be the first snow game that Lamar has ever played in. Now, you might say that helps the run because, you're not going to be throwing as much if it's going to be snowing because it's going to be a wet ball and everything. But I don't know. I think the Bills are just, I don't know. I like the Bills' chances in this game. Again, them being at home definitely helps. The Ravens are, I mean, these are the two hottest teams in the league, I'd say, in the Ravens and the Bills. Now, the Bills have done it way more convincingly than the Ravens have and against probably better opponents. But, I mean, the Colts played the Bills really tough in the first game, and the Ravens, I would say, handled the Titans pretty easily. Now, I think the Colts were better than the Titans all season long, but yeah, this will be a very interesting game. I think this will be more of a kind of like prove it game for Lamar than last week was. I think this is just a way better team than the Titans were. So if he performs amazing like he did last week, they definitely have a real chance, and they probably win the game if he performs like he did. But I don't know. I find trouble in trusting him in this playoff game, and I kind of like I would rather trust Josh Allen more, which it kind of sounds ridiculous if you were talking about this last year, but I think most people would probably agree with me on that.
No, I definitely think so. Again, I could see it going either way. I'm gonna go Ravens, but I mean, if the Bills won, I honestly, I mean, I wouldn't really be surprised at all. We'll go NFC. We'll start off with the one that's probably easier to pick. We'll go Rams Packers. I'll let you go first in this one.
Yeah, this is my pick's gonna be the Packers. It definitely helps. Like I picked the Rams to beat the Seahawks last week, and obviously it happened. So the Packers are definitely way happier to be seeing um, the Rams rather than the Bucks if the Seahawks had won. So the Rams, I mean, it was just announced today that Wolford's out, which I mean, I think you were probably going to go. It's kind of seemed like they were honestly going to go him. If he was healthy, I think they would have gone him over Golf, which that would have been very surprising. It's like not only did Golf win that, I mean, obviously your defense won that playoff game last week, but I mean, Golf, he made throws when he had to. Again, he's playing with a broken thumb and with like splints in his thumb. So like every throw was not going to be accurate, which you obviously saw. He was 9 of 19, but he didn't throw a pick. He threw a touchdown. He made plays when he had to make plays. I think a week being healthier is going to help, but you're playing in Lambeau. It's going to be super cold, which does not help his thumb at all. And you're playing the Packers, who have been one of the best teams in the league, throughout this season. They've been very consistent, except for probably the Tampa game. Their offense is, I know the Rams defense is really good, but the Packers offense is almost unstoppable. If Jalen can stop Devontae, then it's going to be very interesting because if Devontae's not going to have a monster game, then Aaron Jones is going to have a monster game. But the Rams' run defense is really good, so I think it comes down to that matchup between Jalen and Devontae. But I think the Packers will be able to win this game.
I'm going with the Rams, and this is not a
Oh,
joke at
wow,
all.
really?
I'm going with the Rams. I think, I mean, obviously Goff being injured is huge. I'd be so much more confident if Goff was healthy, but I think Goff has a good game. I think he goes 20 for 30, 22 for 30, 2 touchdowns. I think he plays a turnover free game. I think the Rams defense might be the best in the league. At least it might be the best in the playoffs that's remaining. Ramsey's not a traveling cornerback. He's not gonna be on the left. He's not gonna go from the left to the right or the right to the left. He's probably not going to be in the slot at all, but I'd expect to see Ramsey on Adams for a solid amount of the game. If Ramsey wins that matchup when they're together, then I think that gives the Rams a much better chance to win. I think Donald has to have a big game. Is he playing? He's playing.
He's playing, yeah.
So, I mean, Donald has to, I just wanted to make sure Donald has to have a big game. He's probably going to have 2, if not like 3 sacks for them to really win this game. But I'm just kind of in the mood to pick an upset. And I think I haven't really heard too many people pick the Rams at all. I just think, everyone's going with the Packers and, do the Rams win the game? I mean, probably not, but I'm going to pick the Rams. And I genuinely think it'll be a much closer game than people think. I just think the Rams defense is just too good for them to just get blown out of the water. And I think the Rams are going to win.
I think it'll be a close game too. I think the Rams defense will be able to contain the Packers. Like I think they'll probably be in the 20s, but I don't see them putting up like 30, 40 points. But I mean, if the only way the Rams can really win though, I mean, like the Jalen matchup, yes, but Goff has to have no turnovers. If he has like one turnover, it's just going to change the whole perception of the game, field position, everything. If the Packers get a touchdown off that, like there's so many things that could happen. So if he plays turnover free football, I think it's definitely a real chance. But asking him to not have a turnover when even when he was healthy, it was him and Wentz for who are the most turnover guys in the league. So now that he has the broken thumb, it's going to be tough. And even though the Seahawks defense was playing really well, I kind of like the Packers defense in this element. So I don't know. I think it's going to be really tough for Goff to not have a turnover this game.
Yeah, I'm going with the Rams. It also makes my life in the conference championship a little bit easier if they win. So
Yeah. So I
yeah.
think we know where you're going in the conference in the other NFC game then.
The last game, Bucks at Saints. I mean, I guess I'll start. I'm gonna go with the Bucks. I mean,
Yeah.
I think so. My biggest reason ultimately with going, okay, there's 2 big reasons. The first one is I like Tom Brady, and the Bucks are my favorite team in the playoffs right now. They're probably my second favorite team in general in the league. If I had to pick a second favorite, I guess. I mean, they definitely would be. clearly. But I mean, the Saints just have this. They have this choky thing about them in the playoffs. I don't know exactly what it is. Honestly, I really have no clue. I don't know if it's a Breeze thing, a Peyton thing, a culture thing, if they just don't have a leader that motivates them. I don't know what it is, but it just happens every year. It almost happened in the Bears game. Had that Bears team been slightly more competent and had Wims caught that ball, then Breeze starts sweating, Peyton starts sweating. But because of that, I mean, they essentially just won that game for free for nothing. So I think the Bucks are going to win this game. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to go. I mean, I'm sure it'll probably both teams will probably be in the 30s if I had to guess. I think it'll be a high scoring game, even though both defenses are pretty solid. I just think Breeze versus Brady. I mean, that's going to be a high scoring matchup. I don't see it not being a high scoring matchup. But I think the Bucks will probably pull out. I think the Bucks offense is better. I think it's better. I think Brady's the better quarterback than Breeze. I don't know how much it is by, but I think Brady's better. I would take Brady. I think around Brady, I think the surrounding cast on offense is also better, even though the Saints do have Thomas, Kamara. I would still take the Bucks surrounding cast. The defenses are, I mean, the Saints probably have the better defense, but that doesn't by no means is the Bucks defense garbage at all. If they can rush Breeze and make him feel uncomfortable, they can force a couple turnovers and win the game. So
I'm gonna go with the Bucks also. Um, it's not more so the Saints like choking. I think, yeah, I'm not really going down that way, but I think the Bucks. I mean, I've been saying this again. Like I don't know how many times I have to say this, but I've been saying this for the last couple weeks, couple months that the Bucks are they're the second best team in the NFC behind the Packers. And the Saints have I was big on the Saints early, but then I just some of their games, maybe it was Breeze getting hurt also and Thomas not being healthy the entire season. I don't know what it was, but it just seemed like they kind of just lost steam. And I mean that Bears game was definitely not good. It wasn't a good vote for confidence for people who are, Saints believers. Um, and I definitely am more on the path of the Bucks than I am the Saints. And one thing, the Bucks do get Devin White back, who didn't play last week. I'm pretty sure Ronald Jones is going to play. Mike Evans is going to be another week healthier, so they're definitely getting a lot more pieces back. And yeah, it's going to be a close game. Like I think it's going to be in the 30s. Like you said, it's going to be back and forth. Will it come down to? It seems like these last couple playoff losses, Breeze has had a turnover that's kind of cost him the game, but it kind of gets thrown under the bus. Like the Rams game, that obviously you have the pass interference call that wasn't called, but it was in overtime. The Saints had the ball to start overtime, and they threw a pick. I don't think people really talk about that as much, but um, I don't know. I just see the Bucks being able to win this game again. Third time playing this season. The Saints won the first two. It's very, very hard to beat a team three times in one season. I'm not sure what the exact stat is on that, but it's probably the team that's actually done it. It's probably only a couple times, if that, honestly. So I just think I think it's all in favor of the Bucks going into this game. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the Bucks. Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's our divisional predictions. I mean, and as far as our predictions are concerned, biggest upset prediction would definitely be my Rams call. I think we're gonna come back here on Sunday night and we're gonna just be amazed at how good that prediction was. That's what I think. So I'm excited for
Yeah.
that.
Well, that would ruin my Super Bowl pick. I mean, I had the Packers winning, so
Yeah, that's. I mean, that's just if it goes how the regular season went. I mean,
I mean, if
that
the
might have to
Rams were to beat
happen.
the Rams were to beat the Packers, do you really think the Bucks would beat the Rams? Like,
Yeah.
so
Do
you're
I
saying
think?
the Bucks are better than the Packers?
Well, that's the translative property or whatever it's called. Doesn't really. It doesn't always work like that, but
I mean, it's what you're
do I think the
saying, right?
Ram? Do I think the Bucks are better than the Packers? I think they have a better. I think they have a higher ceiling.
Maybe, I don't know. I I think I don't know. I think their defenses are the same, and I think the Packers have a more explosive offense. I think the Bucks have a really good offense too, but I think the Packers is just way more explosive.
We'll see. I mean, maybe they'll play in the NFC Championship game or something.
Yeah, I
But
mean that's what I picked for mine, and I had the Packers winning. So
yeah, we'll see. I mean, the Packers also would be at home, but yeah, I
yeah,
think the Bucks. Honestly, I think they're a better team than the Packers. Uh, is it bias? Probably. It's
yeah.
probably bias, but I mean, there's one thing that you just can't do. It's like I can't bet against Brady sometimes. I was happy Brady left New England, by the way, but I mean, yeah, I mean, sometimes it's tough. Like I'm
Well,
just
now
gonna have to
you
watch
won't
him
have any
fail.
stress watching him. Like it's not like it's your team that is in the game. You could just watch him.
No, there's still stress. I mean, like,
Yeah, but
because
it's not
they're
like if he makes a mistake, you're like it's all on the Patriots franchise. Like at least it's another franchise if something were to happen.
yeah, but Brady's still kind of connected in a way to the Pats franchise. Like, because if you're hating on the Pats, you're probably hating on Brady. It's just like I don't know, but like
Yeah,
I mean, the Cowboys just wouldn't have anything like that because they're just not a very good franchise, and they just never have been. Like those Super Bowls, kind of, I don't know, like
well,
they're
I
so
mean,
old at this point. So,
we'll see what happens in the next 10 years
I
when
mean,
the Pats don't make the playoffs every single season. We'll see what happens.
sure, but the Cowboys might end up being the same way. So, anyways,
Possibly, yeah.
I mean, that's it for this episode. Uh, right. So,
Um,
unless
well,
anything else you wanted to say.
I guess for next Sunday, I mean, we're gonna recap the divisional games, but I guess we're gonna talk about as long as no other coaches get hired between today's Thursday and then Sunday. We'll definitely talk about the open again. Urban Meyer got hired, but I think there's still 6 or 7 other openings. So we'll definitely talk about it. We may make predictions, maybe not. I'm not sure, but we're definitely going to talk about it on Sunday night because by the time next week, a lot of those spots may be filled. Who even knows? So
Yeah. Also, I haven't said this in a little bit, but social media handles and all that going to be in the description of this video. Twitter, all that stuff. If we have it, it'll be in the description. So make sure to follow those or whatever. Spotify, YouTube, obviously, probably watching it on one of these or listening. But that's it. We'll be back Sunday night with everything. So yeah.